Hey guys, it is day 2 of our 90 days to the New Testament of the Bible. If you're not sure why I'm doing this, my church, we're going through a 90-day reading plan right now, and I thought it would be a good idea to share a little bit about what I am learning, and it's really for the sake, mostly for those of you who don't really know much about the Bible, don't really know much about Jesus or Christianity outside of some random interactions you may have on social media or something. So anyway, you can watch yesterday's video if you want more information or to hear what I had to say or hear what I shared from the first 3 chapters of the book of Matthew. But we're going to go through the next 3 chapters today. And basically, this is Jesus's first publicly recorded sermon that he ever preached. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. I would recommend that if you read nothing else in the entire Bible, read the Sermon on the Mount just to get an idea of what Jesus had to say, because it's pretty incredible. I love the Sermon on the Mount. It's some of my favorite chunks of text in the entire Bible. It's also terrifying because any type of I'm a good person because blank, blank, blank checklist that I have is pretty much put to rest here. Like Jesus is like, yeah, you might not be as good as you think you are. And so I'll read a couple little things that Jesus said just to give you an idea of what I mean by that. So let's see, Matthew 5:21 and 22 says, you've heard that our ancestors were told you must not murder. If you commit murder, you're subject to judgment. But I say, if you're even angry with someone, you're subject to judgment, which is pretty intense. Verses 27 and 28 says, you've heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery. But I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And then verses 43 and 44, you have heard the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. And so again, the kind of the crazy thing about this whole sermon is I think they, especially then, we have them now, people back then had expectations of what it meant to be a good person, to be loved by God, to have the favor of God. And Jesus is saying, you have a lot of external things that you're doing, but God cares about what's going on inside of your heart. And some of these things that Jesus points out are indicators of what's really going on the inside. Because we can look really good on the outside. We can look like a great person on the outside. But if we've got ugly stuff on the inside, that's really the true indicator of the type of person that we are, is our heart and our thoughts. And so one of the other ones that I think is just kind of cool, because it really, all of this pertains to today. But Matthew chapter 6, verse 1. So this is still in the Sermon on the Mount. He says, watch out, don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward from your Father in heaven. And I just think, especially with social media today, we're all trying to look for the admiration of people. But what we really need to be doing is looking for the admiration of God. And so anyway, just again, another way that this ancient text is so applicable to today. But anyway, so just kind of going back to that idea again, I could spend 20 minutes or longer just talking about the sermon, but those are just a couple things that Jesus says. He says tons of other things, but I know for me, when I read it and I see, okay, I don't murder. I try not to lie, I try not to be angry with people that, disagree with me and things like that. I try to pray for them. But how do I know? How do I know if I'm really pleasing you? If you're happy with the type of person that I am? And not that this is the answer, but I think it at least begins to give us an answer at the very beginning. So even before Jesus says any of that stuff that I just shared, he shares this. It's Matthew 5, verses 3 through 10, and it's called the Beatitudes. And it really gives us kind of an inside view into like what kind of person God is pleased with. And it says this: God blesses those who are poor, meaning poor in spirit, not monetarily poor necessarily. But it says God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Anyway, that is what I wanted to share today. I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of who Jesus is, what God is like. Again, it's just the tip of the iceberg, you guys, but I hope it just gives you a little bit of something for you to think about today. And so, yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Tomorrow, we will do Matthew chapters 7 through 9. So it's like the conclusion of the Sermon on the Mount. And then, Jesus starts healing people. I mean, there's some cool stuff that happens in the next 3 chapters as well. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, see you tomorrow.